Welcome into Bills Tonight Digital presented by ECMC, and the Bills drop their first home game of the 2021 season. They fall to the Steelers with a final score of 23-16. I'm Maddy Glab, and I'm joined by Bills legend Steve Tasker, and the Bills just really couldn't get it going here. I mean, Josh Allen looked like he was struggling to get into a rhythm all game. They hit that touchdown right before the first half, which you would think, okay, momentum may flow into the second half, but that was quite the opposite. Instead, the Pittsburgh Steelers scored on 4 straight possessions in the second half, and that was kind of the downfall. So let's get straight to the highlights here.
Yeah, the highlights start out really, you come in with a huge amount of expectation. You think it's going to go your way. And then, of course, our guy, Isaiah McKenzie, busts loose 75 yards down the side. It's on. It's going to be one of those days. The drive actually stalls after this. They settle for a Tyler Bass field goal. Bills lead 3-0. And that is almost it for the entire first half. And then late, Josh Allen zips one in. What a sensational throw. Great coverage. And Davis just pulls it in. Touchdown for Buffalo. They lead 10-0 at half. And then the second half, great bobbled catch right there in the back of the end zone. That gives Pittsburgh a touchdown. Bills drive stalls. Blocked punt. Matt Hack took a long time to get that ball off, and the Steelers come through, block it, touchdown. Steelers go up by 10. Bills struggle to get back in, and they come back, get a field goal to bring it to within 1 touchdown. It just wasn't enough time, and you really have to tip your hat to the Steelers. Walk down on the road coming into a team that's got high expectations. They played extremely well. Their pass rush is legit.
It was really good. We'll continue to break down the game, but first we want to get to our quarterback, Josh Allen, who is meeting with the media right now after the game.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's not what we hope for, what we strive for, how we wanted to start the season. But that's why we're playing 17 of them. You know, we're not expecting to win them all. You know, we go into each game expecting to win, but we understand that it's a long season. A lot to learn from this tape. Obviously, starting with me, just early on, just being maybe a little too aggressive instead of just finding some easier things and easier throws. But you know, hats off. That's a really good team. They had a really good plan today, and they came out and they played good.
Josh, do you feel like you were pressing at any time, and in particular as the game went on and maybe things were not going the way you wanted them to offensively? Did you feel like you started pressing maybe even more at that time?
I don't think so. Certain situations in the game, you gotta figure out how to get something going. We didn't have everything today, and again, just early on, just finding some things and missing Emanuel on the deep throw. Obviously, that's one I want back. When a defense like this gives you that type of opportunity, you got to execute and make those plays happen. I didn't. We didn't. It is what it is. But again, it's a good tape to learn from, and it's never as good, never as bad as you think on tape. So, we got some work to do. We know that, and we're looking forward to this next week and getting out there on Sunday.
Josh, can you take us inside?
I say that you never seem to get into a comfortable rhythm today. I mean, the offense in general, but you in particular, it just never seemed like you were really comfortable and in that rhythm. You showed a lot last year.
Yeah. Whether it be, just first game nerves or jitters or feeling stuff at my feet. But again, I gotta play better. I gotta be better. I know that. And again, like I said, we're gonna learn from this, and we're not gonna panic. It's 16 games left, and we know what we need to do. And again, we're gonna look at the film and work and strive to get better.
Josh, can you kind of take us inside the second fourth down play in particular? Kind of the design of it and the execution or lack thereof there. Yeah,
actually that's a play that we've kind of had in our back pocket, and coach calls the play, and we go out there and run it, and guy made a good play, and I don't know what else to tell you. He made a good play.
Were they doing something you weren't expecting out there? They didn't blitz as much as they did last year. Particularly, was there anything they did to really limit your ability to move around?
I don't think so. I think we expected this type of game and this type of game plan from them. But again, early on, just trying to take some of the stuff that they were given instead of forcing some things down the field, I think would have helped out a little bit. But make no mistake, they get paid on that side too, and they got some really good players over there, and they made some plays today. But we got to go out there and execute how we know we can, and that's one of the things about football. That's why you play the game. But again, we'll be better in that aspect, and I'll be better in that aspect going forward.
A good portion of the time. Was the space constricted in any way to limit you in any way, did you feel, or were you still able to kind of do what you usually do?
It was for the most part. I was talking to some of the wideouts in there, and there weren't many times that we got many one-on-ones. There was always someone playing hard leverage one way and then somebody waiting for us on the other side. So they definitely had a good scheme, and they made it tough, but we got to be better, and, we got to make more plays.
Josh, the defense made a couple of big stops down by the goal line today, forcing some short field goals to keep you guys in the lead. Thoughts on the way that they performed on that side of the ball today?
They played great. If you look at the game, it's 3 phases, and I think on their phase they won. I can't say the same about the other 2 phases. So there's some stuff to clean up. But again, them being able to kind of bow their backs there, especially like a bend no break type mentality when it gets down to the red zone and force field goals instead of 6 and 7 there. They played well. And again, they made a couple more plays than we did, and we expected this type of game from this type of team. It's a very well-coached team. It's going to be one of the better teams we play all year, to be honest. But, as we move forward, got to find ways to go out there and execute and get the ball to playmakers.
I know you guys are at home, but what was the adjustment like playing in front of the capacity crowd here in the stadium?
No adjustment, really. Obviously, home crowd, so offense, they're not really talking too much. But, I wish we could have put on a better show for the fans, and obviously that's not how they wanted it, nor us. So, hopefully that next game we'll be able to go out there and give them something they like.
Josh, you mentioned the one through to Emanuel in the first half. It seemed like another one in the second half, almost in a similar spot where maybe he had a step. Was there an issue of maybe just not being quite on the same page with him? I know he missed some time in practice with an injury, or was that just maybe just a misplay? Just misplay. I got to trust my guys and got to put the ball where they can make a play, and I didn't on that first one, and that's something I'm going to think about. And like I said, when defenses give you those types of opportunities, you gotta hit them.
Question for both guys. This team in recent years has seemed to be able to bounce back from emotional losses. What is it that you guys are drawn as a common thread over that time about bouncing back?
There's no loss of confidence at all. Part of it was a good job for them, but we know we didn't play our best offensively. We got to be a lot better than that. So, we know what we have with this group. So, there's not going to be any drop in confidence. We're still going to go out there, trying to score 40 every game. We feel like we can accomplish that if we do it how we do.
Defensively, what do you see different this year than you saw last year? Did you see anything different?
Oh yeah, like someone alluded to earlier, they didn't pressure as much. They use their front four, and they got a really good front four. They got some depth there too that can make some plays and get after the quarterback a little bit. But like I said early on, just being smarter with the ball and finding completions and forcing them to maybe get tired and just doing it a different way. We didn't come out and play how we wanted to. And like I said, we'll watch this tape and we'll learn from it. There's going to be a lot of good things to learn from.
Josh, acknowledging that, in terms of what you said early on, giving the Steelers credit for what they bring to the table, but looking at a lot of the factors, whether it be the 4th down plays or the gap on special teams there, is it fair to say you guys did a lot to beat yourselves? Yeah,
I would definitely say that. And you can't expect to beat a good football team when, like you said, beating yourself. It's not going to work out very well. But again, they had a good plan. They executed well. Yeah.
Part of that would be beating yourselves would be penalties. The offensive line, I think there were 5 or 6 holdings. What did you feel like in terms of the pressure that you were facing on a consistent basis?
Like I said, finding completions early on, quick ones, trying to help myself out there and help the line and try to get these guys hands down and maybe tired. And it's something I didn't do. And that's, like I said, when you're facing a good team like this, you can't give them opportunities to go and pin their ears back and go get the quarterback in 3rd and long situations, and I think we did that too many times tonight. So, again, we'll learn from it.
You're an awful lot of second and 10s. Do you think this team still needs to find a more consistent running game to get you better second down situations?
I think Motor had 11 for 70 something, or I think he ran the ball well. I think as a team we ran the ball well. There's some plays here or there that obviously we want back. A couple misreads by me in some RPO situations, and ultimately I can help the run game, and it's something we'll look at and try to implement as we go forward.
Nicole Emanuel had a big game tonight. What does he bring to the offense after you see it on the field out here in real live game action?
Well, he brings a lot of juice, and he's played in this league for a long time, and he's gotten separation for a long time. So, I mean, he's a guy that can beat one-on-one coverage. Anytime you have a few guys on the field that can beat one-on-ones, it makes it tough on the defense. He's got good lateral quickness, and he's good down the field, so he gives us a little bit of both. He's a great addition for us.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
The quarterback press conference is brought to you by Lombardo Funeral Home, proud sponsor of the Buffalo Bills.
All right, we heard from Josh Allen and Cole Beasley there, and they seem like all of Bills Mafia and we seem right now. I mean, kudos to the Steelers defense for having a great game and being able to string together a game to put some points on the board, especially in the second half right there. But Josh and Cole don't look too happy right now, and they shouldn't with the way that the offense tried to kind of put something together, but it just, like I said in the beginning of the show, it just never really worked out for them. Josh Allen never got into that rhythm that we saw him get into so frequently last season, passing the ball down the field, mixing in the run play there. But what did you think overall of the game that Brian Daboll called, and maybe the struggle to get into that type of rhythm that the Bills offense was so good at last season?
We said that Pittsburgh was really aggressive last year on the Monday night game when they came into Buffalo. This year, I don't think they were as aggressive. I think they were just better than they were last year, particularly in the pass rush. I'll give you, Cam Hayward had a phenomenal game. T.J. Watt had a phenomenal game. So did Melvin Ingram, who I think a lot of people were really surprised at how well he played. Those three guys, you got three guys that are really rushing the passer well. The Bills' offensive line struggled against them when they went those 5 wide. You only got 5 guys to protect, and you've got to hold up. If they send 4 or 5, everybody's got to win a one-on-one, and that's hard to do, particularly with 3 stellar pass rush guys. You saw a number of holding penalties on the Bills' offensive line. There was like 3 in the first half and 4 overall.
Yeah.
It was crazy. But that's what those guys had to do to keep Josh up and upright. They had to force the officials to call it, and they did. And those were all pretty legit. But that's what you got to. That's what that pass rush can do for this team. You saw the Bills had a couple of plays taken off the board because of the holding penalties. Had troubles. They overcame one early, got another one right behind it. Could not overcome that one. It led to a punt in the first half. So I think the story of this game was how good the Steelers' pass rush was, both for their offense and for their defensive stops. Their offense didn't do anything in the first half. They got a couple of breaks. They got some stuff going in the second half. But man, oh man, their offense didn't have. They were crushed statistically by the Bills' offense at every turn. The Bills had more plays, more first downs, better third down efficiency, way more net yards, way more offensive plays. Average gain was better. Rushing net was better. Passing net was better. And also, this just in, the Bills also beat them in penalties, 8 for 81, and the Steelers had 5. And those penalties, there was a couple of them that were crushers for the Buffalo Bills. Drive sustainers, and also taking away an interception by Trey White that might have iced the game very early.
Yeah, you talk about those 8 penalties. 6 of them were holding penalties. Deion Dawkins had 3 of those holding penalties. Right. And you kind of have to wonder, as someone who missed the first 2 weeks of training camp and said, I had COVID, I missed the first 2 weeks. I'm still dealing with some symptoms as he was getting back onto the practice field. Looked like he was working his way into things, but then in a real game, you kind of wonder, maybe he was a little bit gassed in the effort to not have those holding penalties was a little bit tough for him because maybe he just struggled just with what he was dealing with and just getting back to the field.
Well, we can talk more about that later. We got something else we're going to do right now, right?
Sean McDermott, he is with the media right now, so let's send it over to Coach McDermott.
Yourselves.
Sean, do you feel like The offense, thinking about Josh, but the offense in general just never really found a rhythm today.
Yeah, we got to do a better job there. I got to do a better job. Getting into a rhythm would be one thing. Establishing the line of scrimmage would be another. And then beating ourselves with penalties, just not good enough overall.
Sean, you mentioned the line of scrimmage. Do you feel like you got outplayed up front on both sides of the ball today?
Well, I got to look at the film, Josh, to do that. But at the end of the day, we didn't help ourselves that way.
How frustrating is it too, and how tough is it for the offense to get in a rhythm when there's so many holding penalties there on the offensive line?
Yeah, well, that's where you're beating yourselves, Heather. If we were beating ourselves on withholding penalties. So we had I think it was 8 penalties, and a lot of those were holds offensively. So we can do a better job. I can do a better job.
Sean, take us inside the second fourth down play, kind of the design of it, and ultimately the lack of execution.
Yeah, the one where we threw it backwards, you mean? Yeah, I got to do a better job with that too.
John, there were a couple other fourth downs near midfield where you did decide to punt in the first half. Can you walk us through your thought process on that?
Yeah, Jay, it felt like overall with where we were, sometimes just outside of go-for-it situations, that field position was important there. Obviously went for it 2 times in the second half, once plus 40, I think it was plus 47 on the one he just asked about, and the other one fourth, I think it was a plus 35, 36-yard line, something like that, 37-yard line, 4th and 9, I believe it was, and really didn't want to punt it there. Not much you can trade off of the field position there. So the goal before that was on 3rd down, to get a little bit more to get us in positive position on 4th down if we needed a 4th down. So we didn't execute.
We just heard from Micah and Jordan, and they both, said that they just couldn't stop the bleeding in the second half. I guess what was the difference with Pittsburgh's offense? Like, what adjustments? What did you see from them that was so different in the second half?
Yeah, I mean, listen, overall, you hold a team to 16 points if you take away the block punt, right? So I thought overall defensively, and they were in some tough positions defensively, our defense I'm talking about, overall, they played hard and they did some good things. Some turnovers, some opportunities on some turnovers that we gotta take advantage of. And I thought they gave us some field position in the first half in particular, but give them credit. They made some plays, right? They made some plays down the stretch in particular to put the game away on a critical 3rd down. And then the 3rd down, I thought it was the big momentum changer, the 3rd down on the DPI call. So.
What was the explanation they gave you on that, Coach? The 2 officials, I know you talked to them for a little bit. Did they give an explanation on Levi's penalty?
Yeah, I just prefer not to get into it, Sal, with all due respect to your question right now. So.
I think you found out what it's like if you play, for them to play with the heavy expectations. A lot of people picking you for the Super Bowl. It's like you had a target on your back today.
Yeah, that's how the NFL is, and you got to be able to handle it, right? And that's what we do. We go back, we learn from this. And there's a lot of things out there that we can do better. I can do better, and it starts with me.
You mentioned there are the things that you can do better, and you mentioned also the 1 4th down play on the loss. That was a loss. Not to belabor that point, but if you could educate, what is your involvement in those decisions beyond we're going to go for it here, what we're going to do, kick, we're going to punt, we're going to go for it. So if you say you need to do better, what are the things that go into that?
Well, I'll get into it to a certain extent here, but I'm not going to get into it any further than I need to. Really, it's I'm the head coach, and I'm the leader of this football team, and we got to do a better job. I got to do a better job in that situation. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Sean, what went into the decision to make Zach Moss inactive today?
Yeah, just numbers. Yeah, numbers.
Sonny, you disappointed. The offensive line, we talked about the holding penalties, but they really only rushed 4 most of the day. Was that kind of disappointing that your guys couldn't hold up better than they did throughout?
Yeah, well, that or they rushed 3 at times even. So, I got to look at that, and I think I already know where I'm at on it, but I got to look at that, and adjustments need to be made. So that's what we do week to week, and whether it's really good or really bad. And in this case, it wasn't good enough. And as I said, that starts with me.
Sean, a year ago, you guys always seem to be able to bounce back whatever seemed to happen. What is it about this team that still, obviously, it's only the first game, that gives you that faith that what's in that room can bounce right back after a game like this?
Yeah, I mean, we've been here before. It's one game. I know, as Jerry alluded to, the expectations are high, and that comes with the territory. You know, but that said, you know, you've got to stay humble and hungry in your approach every week. You guys know it's a week-to-week league, and give credit where credit's due. Mike Tomlin and his team came in here and outcoached us and outplayed us, and I give them credit. But we've got to learn from this as coaches and as players and get ourselves ready to go.
Similar to that, Sean, when Mike walked off the podium here, he said still a lot of games left, and Jordan was following behind him and said don't panic. It was almost like he was sending a message to us in the media or to the fans. Do you have to send that same message to the locker room that it is only one game, don't put too much into it?
Yeah, Jay, I'm really just focused on, making those adjustments that we need to make. That's what my job is, and whatever message, I certainly appreciate the atmosphere today. I thought the fans were phenomenal. Our goal needs to be to get ourselves right so we can recreate that every week here at home.
So Sean, kind of along those lines, and obviously giving the Steelers credit, they brought a lot of what they're known for to the table today, but to what extent was this kind of self-inflicted?
Well, as you said, I think you got to start with, as a coach, you start with yourself. But you also understand that they did some things, too, on their side. They've got good players. They got good coaches. We have to control the pieces that we can control. We don't control that. We control our pieces, and so that starts with, as I said, with me, and it's my responsibility.
Sean, I know you just came off here, but what are your, I guess, initial impressions of how Greg Rousseau did today?
Yeah, I think we were rolling some people in there. You probably saw that, Heather. So, I thought they moved the ball at times. And, look, if you got time to stand back there and throw it on some third downs, it's not good enough. But overall, I thought our defense gave us a chance in some tough situations, like I said. So, really, to be specific on Greg would be hard right now, Heather.
I know to
Yeah,
be specific,
I saw Ed Flash with a tackle for loss. I thought we were active. I mean, Ben was moving a little bit off the spot, but he did make some plays in critical moments. So that's what a good quarterback does, in particular a veteran quarterback like Ben.
You've been with Brian Campbell a long time now. How much confidence do you have in him to go back, work, and make adjustments and figure it out?
Yeah, I have confidence in our entire football team, Brian included. Yeah.
Yeah, at least 4 holding calls, so.
Unacceptable.
If you're going to throw
Jerry.
40-plus times, don't they have to be better?
Unacceptable. Yeah, you can't beat yourself, and let's just start there. Right.
Speaking of the fans, with Josh being such an emotional player, did you notice any adjustment there as far as playing in front of the full capacity as opposed to last season?
I think that was an adjustment for all of us. So I thought Josh handled it well. There's some plays he wants back. I know that. Just talking with him a little bit during the game even. So, that's what we all got to do. We all got to do our part. It can't just be Josh. It's a team game here.
As far as plays he wants back, Josh mentioned one of those throws to Emanuel specifically, but what did you see out of them together today?
Yeah, you see the start of a good relationship, I think. It's until you play games, you're never really sure what you have, right? So having their first game under their belt now, I think they'll both learn from that and the communication between those two. They're both veteran players, obviously Emanuel a little bit older, and that'll help Josh as they continue to grow together.
What was it about Matt Breida that made you feel confident to have him up and be a part of the game plan?
Yeah, I thought Matt had a good preseason, Joe, and in addition to what he does on offense, he's a valuable player on special teams as well for us.
Do you feel like you need to get the running backs more involved in the offense as a whole than they were today? I mean, Josh ended up with 50-plus passing attempts.
Yeah. I don't want to give away things here in terms of, but just overall, I can be better there.
When you're playing a team like Pittsburgh with Mike Tomlin as their coach 3 years in a row, does that give them any sort of advantage? I mean, there's no hidden secrets between the two teams at this point.
Did they get an advantage out of playing us 3 times, you're saying? I don't know. That's probably a better question from Mike. I mean, he had his team well prepared. I give him the credit, and, I got to do a better job there and get my team ready to go.
Seeing Emmanuel Sanders' rapport with Josh already, does that just speak to him being a veteran and really just bringing that veteran presence in and really hitting the ground running with Josh early here?
With Emmanuel? Yeah, I mean, they trust each other, and they've only been together a few months now, but they trust each other, and Emmanuel's a veteran receiver who's played in some big games, some really big games, won a Super Bowl. So that practice time is important. All that being said, that they continue to work together during the week and continue to build that relationship so that they're effective, especially in critical moments of the game. Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you. Sean McDermott's press conference is brought to you by Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield of Western New York, the official health plan of the Buffalo Bills.
All right, that was head coach Sean McDermott, and he basically said we need to be better. We got to learn from today and move forward next week with a game against the Dolphins, their first away game in the season. From all facets of the game and really just the offense. I mean, he was proud of how the defense played in this game. They limit the Steelers to just 4.6 yards per attempt. They hold their rushing game to under 100 yards. So some positives to take away here from the defense. But as we close out this show, what do you want to see from this team here next week? And maybe some final thoughts on this game overall.
Yeah, really better pass protection up front. If they're going to go 5 wide, they've got to shore up their pass protection, their offensive line, and that's the key thing. And I think some of the upholding calls today were because they got beat so fast, the offensive line just pulled the guy down to protect Josh from getting hit. That was one thing. And I think, too, Brian both on Twitter and all the other platforms, Brian Daboll's taken some heat over the play calling he had. I think his hands were a little bit tied today because of the defensive front of the Steelers. I think they really struggled to get to win up front, and that really hamstrings your ability to call some plays. You don't want to call any plays where Josh has to let it develop. A lot of quick passes. They were most effective when Josh got the ball out of his hands quick. They didn't have a chance to drop back. They only went down the field a couple of times, particularly in the first half. They missed one to Emmanuel Sanders down the middle, missed one to Diggs. And they just didn't try him deep very much. And I think it was a nod to how ineffective or how effective the pass rush for the Steelers was. And I think that is really where it all started and finished for this game.
Yeah, the Steelers led the league last season. Overall pressure rate 37.3 was the rate that they pressured at. Also led the league with 56 sacks. So, of course, the Steelers defense was going to have a day against Josh. The Buffalo Bills could not come up. They fall 23-16. We'll see how the Bills fare next week against the Miami Dolphins. But make sure you stay tuned. 11:30 on MSG. Bills tonight for the full version. We'll have more highlights, break down some more plays, and hear from some more players. Our game sponsor was Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield of Western New York. We will see you guys next week.